Well, the beauty of Radio Row, not only is it the best week of the year, in my opinion, but what a treat when you get to run into old friends
Thank
and
you.
friends of the show. It's been a
Yes.
couple of years,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, Sarah can't make this one. I know she's going to be bumming about it, but
Yeah.
Josina Anderson, NFL Insider, it's so great to be back with you. And before I start, thank you for carving out some time.
Of course.
Because
Yeah.
you have never not,
Keep my word.
yeah,
Keep my word.
you always do. And
Mhm.
I'm proud and happy
Yeah.
for you, everything you've launched
Trying.
in the independent media
Yeah,
space.
thank you.
And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, well, you and Sarah have done a really great job building an audience. I mean, I appreciate, people say things, about me and the things that I accomplish, but I'm still learning. I was just telling Pat, I'm a neophyte in the YouTube space. I'm still learning how to turn that over because I just spent so much time, really building up, Twitter and the engagement there. And so even as someone who's been in the game for 20 years, there's always something new to learn. There's always, ways to get better and be multi-sourced, revenue wise and opportunity wise and new venture wise. So, that's kind of what, keeps my wings afloat these days. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you for sure is our digital audience, particularly those in the YouTube space, appreciates you, and they remember
Yeah.
when you shed some light during the contract process for Lamar Jackson,
Yeah.
which feels like a lifetime ago, but it really isn't. That's actually where I want to start.
Yeah.
Have you given any kind of thought to Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office potentially getting out in front of an extension from a team building perspective, maybe in the coming months, if not, sooner?
Well, I think this year has been really important in terms of I don't know if I want to call it the renaissance of appreciation for running backs, but certainly with what, Saquon was able to do in Philadelphia and the impact that I know the Baltimore Ravens felt from Derrick Henry being on the team, I think has been very important because when you look at the years leading up to just, I don't know, the last 3 years, the last 4 years where the contracts from running backs have gone down. They were making, I think Christian McCaffrey, when he got his contract, he was like at $16 million a year. And then there were guys that consistently dropping down like in the 12s and the 8s. And I know a lot of running backs feeling like, their value is going down. So for Saquon to have the year that he had after, the Giants basically allowed that to happen in their conference. And then also for Derrick Henry, when people thought he was done, to still have impact. Now we obviously can have a conversation, I'm sure, on utilization and how much his talent was spread over the course of a game from first quarter, second quarter, third, if he's just coming in the fourth quarter and things like that. But I do feel that I think EDC, as you guys call him, sees the value of Derek and needing to get out in front. And I actually think that that the Ravens have done a good job in terms of doing what they can for what is available to try to make the team better and to try to get over the hump. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. It's really sad to see, but I think what stuck with me is how well Lamar took it. I mean, he was really graceful, really quickly about it. And sometimes it's hard to tuck those feelings away and really, I don't know, be wise and mature about it so quickly. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you get the sense it's just going to continue to simmer from within, and that inner demon mode of Lamar that we've seen kind of come into his defiant Lamar is what we call it, has continued to build and build with some of his, postseason adversity that he's faced. But so that's the Derrick Henry side of things.
Mm-hmm.
What I actually meant by that was,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Because clearly, Derrick's got one more year under contract, but maybe Eric gets out in front of that, and clearly, an ascending running back at 31 would be deserving of an extension. Maybe he tries to do that. I guess what I meant by that was, from a Lamar perspective, would they potentially get out in front early to, create more flexibility from a team building perspective now and extend him to maybe kick some cash down the line?
Well, I think, any GM is obviously going to survey all of the contracts to see where he can create space, whether, it's through a restructure so that you have more operating cash in a given year. the other side of that is the human quotient in terms of the value that you place in showing that you appreciate someone. Because I feel like when you are cognizant of that, it does pay dividends in a different way. And while you do have to be smart to manage things from a business perspective, you also have to manage the human factor so that your locker room chemistry is right. So each day when you come to work, you have a decision. Is Bobby going to give 50% today? Are you going to give 75% today? And a lot of that has to do with how you're feeling, how you're managing life, how you feel like you're being appreciated or not being appreciated. So I do think he has the ability to do that. I think that Derrick Henry's situation is not isolated. Obviously, it's connected to other people's situations. So I would have to, probably have a bit of a broader view on the entire, cap situation as far as everything that he's looking at, not just this year, but the next year ahead. I don't think it's not within his realm of thinking to do that. But obviously, I guess what I'm trying to say too is that clearly there's also a larger picture.
Sure. We're about 2+ weeks removed from the season coming to a screeching halt. As the Ravens enter their offseason, and as you enter yours, although free agency is probably that's not considered offseason whatsoever.
No.
And in this league, maybe there isn't any offseason. They just announced the friggin' Australia thing today for the Rams coming up in 2026. they just have this way of keeping everybody engaged all year round, with maybe the exception of a couple weeks in July. As the Ravens enter the offseason, though, what's most pressing on your mind from either what you've heard, what you think about going into the 2025 year?
That's interesting. I feel like I would say, this is an interesting thing that I'm going to say, because in the last two games that you guys have had in the postseason, you guys have had a catch that didn't happen. And, as much, I'm trying to be delicate. as much, a fanfare as the progress as the offense is made, I do think that there are some, shortcomings there relative to not just decisions made, when it comes to play calling, but the utilization of talent as well. I know you're looking at me like that because it's like I know what I'm talking about, and I'm trying to figure out how much I can, get into it, like as I say it. So I don't want. It's almost like when I say wide receiver, I don't mean I'm not trying to down anyone there. Obviously, I have great respect for Rashad Bateman and everyone who's on there, but as someone who's a former D1 athlete too, one of the things that I always evaluate people on, and I feel like I can see through their soul when it comes to that, is the management of pressure. Like, what does it matter? Like what you're asking me, you can address D-line, you can address linebacker, you can address secondary, but if you cannot perform under pressure, it really does not matter. And someone was just telling me a conversation that they had with Dan Quinn where I think it was, well, maybe I won't say who it was, but someone was telling me I had a conversation with Dan Quinn, and they said the second day after they lost, he was like, man, it feels even worse the second day. And he was like, and the person said, why? And he said, because we never played like that all season. And then, and I said,
thumped. Yeah.
And I said, because it was the pressure.
Yeah.
And when the ball, I won't, I'm not trying to, put anybody out there, but when it comes and you don't, so I know people who catch under pressure. You know what I'm saying? Might not be whatever, but catch under pressure. So I would say that because I've covered that person. I'm not just saying I know. Okay, yes, I'm talking about OBJ, but I do, but I know I've seen him do it in a Super Bowl. I was there. And so, you have your things that, happen throughout the year that, whatever. But when you need something to happen, you see, regardless of whether he was dealing with this injury or whatever, maybe that would have happened right there. And so you want to have those people there. And so that's what I feel like you all should be looking for beyond just the obvious X's and O's is, who is going to sustain throughout a season and I'm not saying Mark Andrews is not reliable, right? I'm not saying that this person is not reliable, but I do think the management of pressure is important. Even when you're really great, you still have to, your pupils have to narrow, your blood pressure has to drop so that you do what you're supposed to do.
So, in other words, how you manage pressure is one thing, but how you cultivate talent to manage said pressure is another.
Mhm.
So, are you kind of getting at, while it was a historic 2-year run with Todd Monken, offensively speaking, and he just got an extension, very deserving, of course, and he'll be here for the foreseeable future. Are you suggesting that perhaps from a whether it's free agency or the draft, they want to retool at wide receiver?
I guess what I'm saying I was trying to answer it even more than
Broad.
how you would typically answer something, right? Because what I'm trying to say to answer your question is talent evaluation is even, I feel like, is the stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheets. And as someone who's a former athlete, I feel like I can tell when somebody have it or don't. So this is why sometimes I've been in front on stories relative to Zach Wilson, Carson Wentz, and things like that. And when people have maybe believed that this person was this, and I could tell that they were not. And so I feel like beyond just getting talent at a certain position, not only do you have to have dogs, not only do you have to manage the puzzle so that the chemistry of your locker room comes together. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman is also very good at this too. And ADC is good in his own right. But there are just other things, micro things that you have to be cognizant of when you're putting a team together. And it goes beyond just evaluating the physicality on the tape. Can this mofo be counted on when I freaking need him? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can I mean, and I will prove to you how important it is, because you know who has that? Jaden Daniels has that. And I noticed I don't watch college football, but people know that I have covered the NFL for 20 years. I don't watch it, not because I don't have the time. Sunday is enough. I need Saturday to separate. Okay. And so I've said for many years since I started covering the combine in 2009 that I will learn about you when you come to the combine. And then after you make the 90-man roster, and then the 53 or whatever. And so when I talked to Jane Daniels, that was the first time. I mean, I've heard about his name, but I didn't really watch him. And then I like to I like to look at your YouTube. And I feel like, because I play a game with myself, like, can I, if I were the GM, could I pick the talent? And I have picked a few accurate ones in my day, just from as being a former and just looking. And when I was interviewing with him at the combine, I tweeted this. I don't know if you saw that tweet, but my producer said, she said, you said it. And I said, after the interview, I felt it. And I think I can say it now. I said it to Dan Quinn. People ask me for a copy of the interviews sometimes that I do, so that because they want to see how they answer the questions. And you could see, I mean, if you go back and look at that interview, you could see it. And so it is important, because it's the difference between two people who have a strong arm, but Jaden has a different mind. And so you got to be able to pick up on that.
Yeah. Dude's unflappable.
Unflappable. I mean,
run.
we're literally could be, I'm no, sorry, it's not potential, but we literally potentially could be looking maybe at the next Jordan of our era in the football. He has that ability mentally. Now, obviously, a lot of things have to fall into place, but just, like Lamar and things like that. But that's what I'm trying to say. So it's not so much that I'm focusing on the wide receivers as the Ravens want to get to the next level. And part of getting to the next level is managing the pressure of the situation. It is, because a lot of times it has come down to a catch that didn't happen in, what was it, the AFC Championship last year?
Well, Zay at the goal line. Yeah.
And
Football security.
And then what happened?
Mark at the goal line this year.
Oh,
yeah.
But it literally is the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you know what I'm saying? So, and sometimes it's not that you have to get another player that has it. Sometimes it's, you do have that person and they need more time to aggregate it, so to speak. You know what I mean? Manifest. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. So I don't know. That's what's in my spirit to say, because I've seen that happen 2 years in a row. And I'm like, so I would, that's what I would be looking on.
I appreciate the honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Tucker, obviously, is a situation that is very unknown. Mm-hmm. We all have been following this. How closely have you been following before we dive into it for a couple of minutes? And then I know you got to get out of here.
I mean, I saw the story when it broke. I know that the number of women making these allegations has grown. So I'm aware of that, and the NFL's response, the Ravens' response, and also watching how the media treats it. I mean, obviously, it's like anything else; it has to go through the process of adjudication to be able to figure out, what's accurate, what's not accurate, what's right, and what's not right. But it's disturbing. Obviously,
For sure.
it's obviously very disturbing, and I think it provides context when Ravens fans look back at the season to the missed kicks that were happening, and I think it just further underlines. And I just said this on my AJ Brown report that I just did yesterday, that when an athlete is going through their performance, with whether it's fantasy, you get so caught up in, and we do forget that there's life management happening that's relative to that person's performance every day, right? And now that we look back at Justin Tucker, we have that context. And where would the Ravens had been if a few of those kicks had gone in? Would it have changed home field advantage? Would it have changed, who you would have faced or not have faced? Or would it have changed, the situation where you didn't have to be, it didn't come down to this play because of wherever his mind was? So it's unfortunate because he's such a reliable kicker outside of that. And finding reliable kickers is very hard. And you don't think about the kicker until the kicker F's up.
Right.
And so, yeah, ADC's got, he's got a challenge in his hands to figure it out. And quite fairly, to be objective as a journalist, I think, and it is fair. Sometimes even people that you admire, and there are a lot of people I think it's no secret that I admire within the Ravens organization. But I think at the same time, it is a fair question for the journalists in your market to ask, you figure out when was everything known? Because they certainly did it in Deshaun Watson's case. There was a very deep, what's the word that I'm looking for? There was a wide telescope on that situation in terms of trying to ask every little kernel of what happened and how.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how much this plays. Now, people have tried to say, oh, it's different because it's quarterback, kicker, da 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 da. But what is the same is the seriousness of the situation is what I'm trying to say.
Severity of the allegations.
Correct.
Not the volume yet.
Or who it pertains to.
But that shouldn't matter, obviously.
It's the severity of the.
Yeah.
So why should we have less voice about it because it's a kicker versus? It's not about the position.
Yeah.
It is about the severity of what's being. And if he and to again underline, he's issued a very strong denial. So
Yes.
we'll make sure we get that into your podcast, and we respect that too. But the way we examine it shouldn't be any different.
Yeah. And I guess the question becomes, much like it was with Deshaun and the weeks and months that followed, it's up to 9 now massage therapists between 2012 and 2016. I'm wondering if potentially outside those years, meaning from because 2012 was his rookie season. Of course, they go on to win the Super Bowl his rookie year. But from 2016 to now, did that same behavioral pattern continue? And if so, will different new therapists be inspired by those who have come forth? And I think we're all just kind of bracing ourselves for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm.
Josina Anderson.
Yes.
Tough way to end the show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
all
a tough.
Good. No, but you have to. But that's the part of the job is that you have to talk about things along the entire spectrum of the things that happen. You have to, be objective about it. You have to, have difficult conversations. You can't fear talking about, things. And it's okay. That's what we do. We illuminate things. We talk about them when it's fun, when it's severe, and that's the job.
Yeah. In September, Odell going to be on a 53-man roster?
Great question.
We'll get you out of here on this.
No. I feel like he has. Obviously, he's gone through his ups and downs. It would be not human for him not to think about all aspects of the next steps ahead. I would for sure say his his passion is there, but beyond his passion, I would say, just like anybody else, and I feel like this has always been a constant thread with Odell, is just the desire to be appreciated. People just want to be appreciated. People want to be afforded the opportunity where they get to shine. Yes, you have to do things for other teammates, but it is hard when you're out there and you're feeling like you're running 60 routes and maybe as many balls are not coming to you, or you're a decoy, or you're feeling. And even beyond that, the theme of what I'm saying is you're not feeling like a factor. So is it so much that his game has changed, or it's like there's a different psychology that he's dealing with too? I always go to the example of the swimmer. I believe her name was Dara Torres. the Olympic swimmer who came back to the Olympics even when she was 40 and still won a gold medal by a silver medal, and she barely missed out on gold by like 700s or whatever. My point is, when people say someone's washed, someone can't run, they don't have it anymore. I'm a former track and field runner, obviously I say all the time, for Carolina. The body has the ability to regain speed more than you think. So I don't buy that. It really is the knowledge and the commitment to do what you need to do to get back the second level speed, and not just train it like a footballer, but train it like someone who really knows sprint. And me and him have this conversation all the time, because I will get on him when I see because he asks me all the time, and if he give me video and I look at it from training, I will tell him if I can see your feet moving and I can count it, that means not moving quick enough. And so you gotta, it's not just being at, the places people go and train. I'm always on, and like, you have to train it like a trackster. You can do it, but you have to train it like I've come from that world. 30-year-olds, Mama Rocket, in the Olympics, who are doing it in their mid 30s and older. So it is possible. So watch your fans when you're out there talking about people are washed, you know what I mean? And not just because it is possible for them to regain speed, but because, you want your team to do well, but you can't be a part of the fabric of the negativity that makes it harder. I say that to Eagles fans when me and Eagles fans were going at it over Carson Wentz.
Oh, yeah.
I've said it to other fan bases when they mad at me saying over something like that. Jets fans when they mad at me over saying so. And I said, y'all are you want the championship so bad, but you're seeding into the negativity. You mad at me, but you want the championship. Stop it.
Hey, one thing about you though, you're always gonna make sure they hear you. You're gonna respond.
You
are gonna respond.
I'll be in them comments, boy. When I have time, I have time. I'll be in.
And know what's funny about that is that Odell, in a similar fashion, he wears his heart on his sleeve, and oftentimes you'll see him in your mentions. So I appreciate that about both of you.
Well, I appreciate being on. Thank you for having me. You and Sarah do a great job. It takes a lot of energy to build something independent and to do it over something that you have to constantly follow and build structure, build a fan base. You guys inspire me. Everyone out here inspires me. Having the energy to keep doing it is hard, because I love staying in bed watching Netflix and with my dog. You know what I'm saying? I'm good at that. Peanut butter and jelly.
Are we all?
Mott's grape juice, or Mott's apple juice.
Yes.
I'm good for that. I'll show you how to do that all day.
But you're also good for grinding. And if you could just quickly, please plug everything you're doing here this week.
So I have a new show called The Exhibit. The YouTube channel is at The Exhibit Concept. The webpage is www.theexhibitconcept.com. And obviously I put most of my stuff out on Twitter, which is where most of you consume it. But if you could help my conversion rate and take all that engagement and put it over, on YouTube, Mama would appreciate that. Mama Joe would appreciate that.
Love it.
Help your girl out.
Hey, Sarah and I have had a wonderful experience on YouTube, and we hope that you're
I'm trying
coming down that line as well. So NFL insider Josina Anderson, you're the best. Thank you for carving out some time. I know it's been a crazy week here in New Orleans, but it's just getting started. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. You guys are great.
Done.
Yeah.